Anna, a warm welcome to the Face Yoga Expert podcast. Anna, my sister is here. How are you?
Good morning, and thank you so much for having me on your podcast. I'm super excited.
Well, I'm sure everyone. Have you been up for hours?
Been up for hours, but I'm feeling good. I've put a nice bright top on. So I know you like lots of brightness and positivity.
I do. I do. I like brightness and positivity. And you are an absolute warrior, because I've got to tell everybody that you've been up for hours because of your children, not because being excited about the podcast. So
There's this thing, isn't there, about the 5 a.m. club?
yeah.
That, like, join the 5 a.m. club. This is how successful people get on. Well, I'm there. Like,
You're
I
there.
enjoyed it.
Every day. Every single day, we are all for it. Now, I want to start off by talking a little bit about your background, because none of my listeners know you. This is the first time we've done a podcast together or anything together. And part of the reason that is because you have been in the corporate world for 17 plus years. And actually now you've stepped into the world of having your own business. How has that transition been?
It's been amazing. I had a really wonderful job for 17 years working in the TV industry in comms and PR. And I enjoyed my job and I loved it. And I didn't really have a desire to run a business, but then I did. This idea came to me that I've got to run my own PR agency. And then hours later, it was born.
I love that. And it literally was hours later. So you knew that they were having to make changes in your company. You knew you could probably keep your job if you wanted to, but you saw this opening to be like, you know what? This is my chance to walk away from, yes, a job that I've absolutely loved for all these years, but now I want to run my own business. And you said, maybe I'll give it a year before I start. No. Within a few hours, you had the name of your business. You were on it, starting the website. So I just love that. You took action right away.
Yeah, it was absolutely amazing. And I think, you know more than anyone, if you want to run your business, you've got to have fire in your belly. If you haven't got that initial fire, you're not really going to get anywhere and it's not suited to you. And I found that. So, yeah, it's absolutely fantastic for me.
You have found that, definitely. And even though it's been, a few months now running your own business, what have you found are the highs and the lows of it? Because I know even 20 years into it, there are highs, but there are plenty of lows as well.
Yeah, so I think, the highs, there are lots of them, because what you're doing, if you're running the kind of business that you should be running, then you're passionate about each and everything that you do. So, for example, my business is PR and social media, and to promote my own business, that is what I'm passionate about anyway. So I'm PRing a PR agency, so that comes naturally, and I think that's one of the most enjoyable things. And obviously, something that many people will say that run a business, it's the freedom, and freedom is just amazing, because especially when you're a busy person, when you perhaps have passions or hobbies, maybe you've got children or a partner or a husband or a wife or whatever, and you want to split your time many ways. It's nice to be able to chop up your day to earn your money and grow your business, but still do things that are really important for your well-being, for your relationships, for your exercise input, all those kinds of things. So that's definitely the highs. And I think the lows are unpredictability. There is no guarantee that you're going to achieve your goals, but you've just got to keep believing. Um, and I think as well, I'm very lucky that I surround myself with some really positive people, but there are always going to be people who perhaps think you should take your business another way. And you've got two choices with those people. You can embrace them and you can listen to them and take their advice, because it often or always comes from a really kind place. Or you can just keep going and reach. So I think it's the unpredictability is the main thing, but I don't believe there's any question that it won't be successful, because I've just got this mantra: if it's not successful, well, you give it more time, you try harder.
Yeah, absolutely. And the patience, you've got the patience with it, which I think is really important, because I think sometimes people think they start a business and instantly they've got all their clients and customers overnight, but it takes a little bit of time.
It does, and it will. I mean, I'm sort of 2.5 months in. I launched 1st of September, so it's sort of 10 weeks in. So it's pretty new, but it kind of feels like I've been doing it forever, just because I it just feels right for me. Yeah, so it's definitely been a transition, especially after like such a long time in the corporate world.
Yeah, absolutely. And you were a long time in the corporate world. And maybe you could tell everyone just a little bit about what you did in your previous role. Because obviously it's very similar to what you're doing now, but it's actually really interesting for people to know that side of you and that world, really.
So it's a funny journey with PR for me, because you'll probably remember when we were at school, career choices were very limiting. And do you remember we used to go into that room where there was this big, like, cardboard box of a computer,
Yeah.
and you answered like 6 questions, and if you were female, it came out that you had to be a teacher or a nurse.
Yes. Hence why I thought I was going to be a teacher, and hence why I did my degree in education, because, you like helping people, you're caring, therefore become a teacher.
But because you didn't know your career was an option, and
No, I
my
didn't.
point is, I didn't know PR was an option, so I thought I probably liked journalism because I've always enjoyed writing, as you have. And English was a strength for me. So I kind of tried to follow that path, and I ended up working for 24, which is a major production company. Back then, we had a wonderful sort of corporate arm, and I used to write bids. So I used to write, but it was like corporate writing. Um, and quickly I realized where I wanted to be, and I realized what PR was. And I liked the aspect of connecting different things to make something happen, and enjoying interactions with people. And I kind of had my eye on that role, and it came about in a really unusual way where I ended up covering for somebody and helping out a bit, and just kind of going above and beyond until I landed the role as though it was press officer. And the role kind of grew from there, and I started managing the PR for our group of companies, which was wonderful factual and and entertainment producers. um, so over the years, I've worked on some of the most wonderful and bizarre TV projects, and social media projects, and comms projects.
Yeah, absolutely, you have. Tell us your funniest project you worked on, and then also the most sort of moving and emotional, because I know you've worked on a lot of those as well.
Okay, so it's really easy to answer that question. Um, the most amazing and bizarre and funniest project was, it must have been about 10 years ago. I worked on a program called Dogs Might Fly, and that was for Oxford Scientific Films, who are a hugely successful and talented company that make natural history documentaries, very in-depth things with animals. Some very smart women run this company, and I thought, wow, this is interesting. What's this going to be about? Um, and Dogs Might Fly. It was for Sky, and actually, dogs do fly. That was the bottom
What?
line. So this whole program,
Tell us.
it was
We want to know
fantastic.
how.
This program was about finding the country's most intelligent dogs that could actually control a plane. And the winning dog, or the dog that was the most able out of these canines, managed to fly a plane in a figure of eight in the air
Wow.
themselves. And how they did that was from learning voice controls. So you would say, I don't know, like left, and the dog would move a joystick left. And it was absolutely fantastic. So lots of funny moments in that show from um, back then as well. Everyone used the phone, like emails weren't such a
Yeah.
thing. They were there, but it was all on the phone. So I had the phone ringing at my desk, and all these journalists wanted to get down to the airfield to see whether these dogs were going to fly the plane, and I had to try and like get them to back off. Um, and then promoting it was wonderful because Shadow, the dog that flew the plane, I took Shadow to Loose Women, So I was stood it one morning in the reception of ITV, and and this dog came along, Shadow, to go on loose women. And I think, if I remember correctly, I think Shadow just ran up and down in the studio and caused absolute mayhem. But it was just, do you know, it's just wonderful. And apart from the funny things, it was a really beautiful program about learning about the intelligence of dogs, and the dogs loved it, and they had a really lovely team who cared about these animals, and they just had this lovely big garden where these dogs would play, and it was just fantastic. So that was the funniest show. And then in terms of the most moving show, there's been lots of moving shows over the years. I mean, quite recently, I worked on a show called Roman Kemp: The Fight for Young Lives, which is about male, especially young males, and like the hidden issue of mental health, depression, and suicide. So that was, it's really important to work on these shows, and I think you learn a lot. You, as a publicist, you watch them several times, these shows, and you start to kind of realize how all these people are, how brave they are. And yeah, so that was moving. And also, one of my earliest shows that I worked on years, about 15 years ago, was about hoarders.
Oh, yes, I remember that.
It was fantastic, and Jasmine Harmon presented it, and it's really interesting because, your everyday person, when they see someone with a really messy house stuff with things, you might just think, oh, it's an eccentric, but it's actually a real condition, and is incredibly sad and incredibly debilitating. And this program helped raise awareness. Yeah. So I think that this is a power of TV, and it's so exciting to work in that world, because these issues and these conditions are often not talked about, and TV is this major way that they can bring these issues into the mainstream. And you get people on the bus chatting about it, or you go into work and you're like, oh my gosh, did you see this documentary last night? So that's just the power of TV, and I think that's really important.
It is, absolutely. And the power of TV has always been incredibly important for businesses and for individuals and for celebs, for sure. And so has press. But something which has definitely happened the last 10 years, even more so the last 5 years, is the onset of social media, and how all businesses now can reach many, many people, sometimes into the millions or multi-millions of people, simply through picking up their own phone. And I'm really interested to ask you, as a PR, and as many people listening will have small businesses, many of them were wellness businesses, what do you think is now most powerful, press and TV, or social media for marketing your own business?
I think they go hand in hand, and I think that each outlet has a different demographic. Yeah. So it's really important to remember that there are people that watch TV religiously every night, and they watch the soaps, and indulge in the adverts, and they talk about the adverts. And there are people that barely watch TV, and that's usually the younger generation. As we know, they have Netflix on their laptop. That they use their phones to indulge in videos, TikTok, Instagram. So I think there's a place for it all. I mean, certainly it's changing, isn't it? And all the major broadcasters know that, and that's why there's amazing new kind of platforms coming up, like ITVX, and the big streamers are just got such amazing content, Netflix and Apple TV. But yeah, there's a place for all of it.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And how about press releases as well? Because back when I did a lot more stuff on TV and in the press, something which we used to do was put out press releases. And now I've stopped doing that, not because I don't think they're effective, and not because I don't think that TV and press are effective, But that's how I built my business, probably for the first sort of 10 plus years. And then I made the decision, because my business is now much more online, to build my online platform. And actually, like you say, I think both have a merit, and it's also understanding your ideal customer, where they hang out. And actually, for me, being on things like YouTube or Instagram or having a podcast works much better for me than, say, having a couple of minutes on a TV show, which used to be much more beneficial because nobody had social media. And when we did that, we did send out press releases. So say I had, like, back then it would be a DVD, like a new DVD out, we would put a press release out about it. Do you think that there's still merit in doing that in this day and age?
Yeah, I mean, there absolutely is, but there's a place for it. The way press releases work effectively is when there is a number of stakeholders and you agree on a single message. That's very hard to do unless you write it down. You can put your message concisely in a couple of paragraphs, everybody can agree on it, and then you can send it to the outlets which you choose. That works great for a major announcement, or like you say, if there's an appearance on something that's major, a new program going out, for example, it's great. You can get that clear information to a lot of people out quite quickly. But when you work in a business which is run, singularly by one person, or you have a single vision, or you've delegated somebody in that business to be the spokesperson, you can be a lot more relaxed about it. So, for example, you are quite happily could pop onto a live and you can talk about what you want. You don't have a board of directors that all need to agree on what you say. It comes from your heart. So I think it depends very much on the business, but it's very important skill, I think, for any business owner to be able to put together a press release. And a press release can just be a paragraph uh, and a quote, and it's just about getting in that key message.
Absolutely. And if someone wanted to do that, so say, I'll give an example of something that happened with us. So when Harry met Meghan Markle, she used to have a blog, a lifestyle blog. Was it called The Tig? I think something like that. And she had said in that blog, when it was still allowed, obviously as soon as she met Harry, that had to come down. But she had said in there how much she loved face yoga, how much she used it. And somebody on the internet got hold of that and said, Meghan Markle swears by facial exercise, swears by the natural approach, loves face yoga. And we realised this. So we actually put a press release out there saying, Meghan loves face yoga. She said it here. These are the techniques she did. And the press loved that because it was an angle then that they could talk about face yoga, but they could talk about it with someone very high profile involved. And at the time I was working, so I've never had like a big PR company or anything like that. And for the last, I don't know, 8, 9 years, I haven't had any PR person or company at all. But back then I worked with a freelance PR, and I said to her, could you please put together this press release? Like, say it was a paragraph or two. I think maybe we'd included a key few exercises in that we knew that Meghan had been doing, and she sent it out to the outlets because she had those contacts. But if you don't have a PR person, if you don't have someone you can call on, if you are a one person band in your business, it's just you, or maybe you and a couple of other people, but you don't have those contacts with the press, how do you make that contact if something like that is happening?
So it's really interesting because contact books are worth their weight in gold. If you don't have those contact books, you have to find those contacts and you have to trawl the internet. You have to find the name of somebody. You maybe have to connect with them on LinkedIn. It'll take you 3 or 4 times longer. You also probably don't know where to place it because it's not your job. It's not your line of business. Um, so if you know who you need to send it to, perhaps you want to send something to like a trade press that you read, where perhaps it's somebody in the well-being industry wants to send it to, a health magazine. That's fine. But when you're trying to target specific places in papers, it really is best to get a PR expert on board. It doesn't mean you have to have a retained agency, but you could use someone like myself that could help you occasionally, that can take a brief quite quickly, and for a day's work you then get that press release out.
That's amazing. So, someone like you, because obviously I know that you've got different packages available. So, if someone is listening and thinking, you know what, I would love to just put together a little press release, or I'd like to put together just like a mini PR package, can they do that? Because I know the thing that stops a lot of people is they don't want to go to one of these big agencies if they live here in the UK, one of these big London agencies where you're paying a retainer every single month, which is often thousands, thousands, if not tens of thousands every month. Tell us what you can do for them if they have a small budget but just want to test the waters in terms of more mainstream PR.
Yeah, so here at Read the Room PR, our ethos is really supporting small, medium sized businesses, businesses that we feel really passionate about. So, lifestyle businesses, things that align with what we love. And there's a couple of ways that we support clients. One of them is we can do almost like a retainer, but perhaps a couple of days a month to support someone with their social media, with their comms ongoing. And we work that on a rolling month. And I really feel strongly about that rolling month way of working for small clients, because as a small business owner, you don't know next month what the landscape might look like. So I think it's really good to be able to keep going without having to commit to a year with a business, with an agency. So that's one option. And the other option is a small business package, which is designed for people who run a very small business. It might be, I don't know, a holiday let, it might be a beautiful restaurant, it might be a hair salon, they might be an influencer who is setting up an amazing brand, it might be a passion project. And what we do is I personally go and work with them and spend half a day or a day with them and understand the ethos of their business. I make social media content for them and I write them a plan. So what they get for an affordable fee is inspiration, some content to get them going for a couple of weeks, or a month, or whatever we agree. Tips on where, how they should be marketing their business. Should they be doing traditional press? Should they be doing more social media? Or maybe it's more networking. So clear guidelines, and then what you get as well is you have that relationship where you have a follow-up call. I'm there on email, and you get that relationship, and it's just a one-off package. And obviously, once we know each other, if that business then wants, a little bit of work 6 months down the line, I don't have to spend time finding out what their business is about. I already know. We can just crack on.
Yeah, love that.
And what's really nice as well about Read the Room PR is what I'm doing is building up this amazing network of people that can support bigger projects. So, for example, I have a wonderful drone operator who can take drone shots, editor.
Oh, I need that. I want to do drone shots. That sounds super
Read the
cool.
Room PR.
Yes,
Amazing. You need my package.
I do.
You so do. I got a professional camera operator so if you want something a little bit more than your kind of basic content, you want these really sparkling shots of, maybe you've got a lifestyle business in the countryside, or maybe you're a walker, or maybe you live by the sea and you want shots, we can do that as well. And what's really lovely is, because I've met so many people and worked with so many people in the TV industry over the years, I've built up this really lovely network. So we can now work together, and I can scale up or down. So you can Read the Room PR is kind of a boutique small agency, but then if you want something, all singing or dancing, we have the capability of the TV quality, footage, TV, producing something of TV quality from people that have a background in TV. So I think that's really exciting.
Super exciting. Love that so much. And I want to slightly turn the corner a little bit and talk about networking. Now, anyone that's listening here and knows about astrology, I'm just going to say that you're a Gemini, and Geminis are so good at communication, so good at networking, and so good at talking. And I just think you are the epitome of a Gemini. I'm only saying that because I know lots of my listeners love things like astrology, and anyone that understands about family placements, often younger siblings are the much more sort of outgoing and vivacious and sociable as well. So I feel like even though I'm a teacher, even though I'm very comfortable speaking on stage in front of hundreds of people, even though I love connecting people, I love creating community, I love sort of talking one to one, I've never seen myself as a natural networker. But I feel like you really are. And if there's anyone out there that's thinking, you know what, I would love to start to build my networks, build my connections with people, or even go to these more formal networking events, what would be your recommendation on that?
Yeah, so networking is a passion. I love talking, I do, and out of this, you're talking about the dynamic of sisters as well. I'm definitely the more cheekier one, but
Yeah,
you've
little
always.
sister.
But if I do something silly, you always just join in.
Yes,
So
so true.
I maybe suggest the idea, but you don't mind looking silly, and you'll just get on and do it. And I think that's
Definitely.
really great. But yes, the talking element, I love a chat. Um, and it's incredibly difficult, networking and talking, because it's quite scary actually. But I've actually made a little reel recently about networking tips. And I think some of my tips would be: do your homework. So before you go to an event, make sure you know, where's it going to be, what does the place look like, what's the layout, what kind of people are going. And I know that sounds really basic, but once you've done that, you take away all that worry about where you're going to stand, what you're going to do, where do you put your coat. You can visualize it, and that makes you feel more confident. I think as well, you need to go to an event or to a meeting thinking what you can give other people. Don't go thinking, I want to come back with a lead, I want this, I want that. It doesn't work like that. Let's all go into a social situation or a work situation giving. Then we all receive. That's a much nicer way to think. The other thing is, when you're going to something on your own and you need to be talking to people, it's so awkward having to go up and find people to speak to. Now, a really good little hack is put yourself in a transition point. Pop yourself at the bar, sit on a stool at the bar, because you're naturally going to get people coming up to buy drinks and you can introduce yourself. Or maybe at the tea and coffee station. Don't sit in a corner and just look open. Don't be on your phone. It's really easy just to grab your phone and look busy. Don't do that. Look like you want to be there.
Yeah.
So I think that's quite a key thing there. And I think as well, like, enjoy yourself. It is fantastic meeting people, and you always learn something. And don't be afraid to ask them questions about themselves. Sorry about the cough. I don't think I've ever talked this much. Talking about
I
networking,
know, we talk about networking and talking. I know, welcome to the world of podcasting for sure. Sometimes I finish the day and I think, oh, have I got a voice left? Definitely when I've been talking a lot. You have a drink for a minute, and I'm going to talk a little bit about moving into the world of wellness. Now, just to give again everyone a little bit of context, which is going to be no surprise to anyone, I was laughing the other day actually with my eldest daughter when we were looking, you'll laugh at this, at a field of sheep, and there was one black sheep. And she was saying, well, why is there one that's got black fur and all the rest have got white fur? And I said, well, it's the same as mummy. Mummy's got dark hair, but think about the rest of our family. I said, nobody else has got dark hair. Everyone else has got really light hair. You're still part of the same family, but you're a little bit different. And actually, just a jovial way, I said, oh, maybe mummy's the black sheep of the family. Now, I get a bigger picture of that. I'm always the one that's a little bit different in terms of, I don't drink alcohol, I don't drink coffee. You know me, I'm very sort of spiritual. I'm a little bit different. Doesn't mean I don't have great connections with everyone in our family. Doesn't mean that I'm not supported by everyone, loved by everyone. But in terms of the way I live my life, I'm not only a little bit eccentric and alternative compared with the rest of the family, but I am probably compared with a lot of people just day to day. Maybe not so much with our listeners here and our community here, because they get the way that I live. But even though that is me and who I am in the family, I do feel like over the years, you're getting much more into the wellness vibe and actually starting to think about, what can I do to look after my mental health? What can I do to look after my physical health? How can I eat the best foods that are going to nourish my body? How can I look at longevity and how I'm going to be healthy forever? So yes, even though I may be the black sheep, I feel like the other sheep in our family are starting to come towards that a little bit. What do you think?
Oh, absolutely. I think I'm starting to morph into you, actually. We used to be so very different. I think 20 years ago, I think we were incredibly different people. But I think actually, as we've got older, our lives are getting more and more similar. The way we think about things are getting similar. And you're absolutely right. Wellness is something that I'm now really passionate about. Especially, I think a turning point for me was COVID. I think I really got into walking during COVID, but also I decided I wanted to do more with my life. I wanted to fill my life. I wanted to live longer. I wanted to be healthier. So there's lots of things I do now that I didn't used to do. For example, I about 90% of my food is non-ultra processed. So I only buy bread that is sourdough or from the farm shop. Even right down to cereal. I don't get ultra processed cereal from a supermarket. I don't
And
use
tell us
dark
about the app that
horses.
you used with this, which I was like, no,
Oh,
I don't need this app in my life. But the more you
no,
talk about it, the more I'm like, maybe I do need this
it's
app in my life.
amazing. I think it's called Yucca, and
Okay.
you scan stuff and it tells you what chemicals are in it. And it gives you like a percentage, like whether it's good. Or so, for example, like wraps are like a staple of family life, aren't they, for lunch? Would scan some wraps and they would have like 30 ingredients in them, but then I now get a brand called Crosta and Malocca or something like that, and they have like three ingredients. It's like flour, water, salt,
Oh,
or
wow.
something like that. Yeah, so it's making these little changes, and I never say no to ultra processed food. If I'm out, there's a party, someone's offering, of course I won't. I'll enjoy it, but at home, I try and keep things as clean as possible. I also take exercise much more seriously. I didn't used to exercise very much. Um, and now I do walking and riding throughout the week, as part of not just exercise, but it's like mental health. Mental health and exercise are so intrinsically linked, aren't they? And I also, the other thing is, although I don't read star signs and horoscopes as such, but I do think we all, including me, go bananas when there's a full moon.
And there's a full moon today.
I know. I'm
The
feeling it in.
Taurus full moon. So when this episode comes out, we'll already have passed that. But this full moon is about thinking, how can we come home to who we truly are? So it's about, maybe over the years we've been pulling ourselves away from things that aren't really us, but how can we now think about how we can come home to who we truly are at a soul level?
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to seeing it tonight. It was really clear last night, the sky. So a beautiful sunset. So I'm hoping tonight it's going to be blue sky again, and then we can see it.
Yes,
We can
love that.
howl.
We can howl at the moon at midnight, put our
Absolutely.
crystals out to recharge. I know you don't really have
Absolutely.
crystals.
So crystals, do you have to recharge them under a full moon?
Well, ideally, so I'm not very good at remembering this, but lots of people I know will put their crystals out, literally outside, when it's the full moon, and that recharges them. So you can recharge them in a few ways. You can do that. You can wash them in salt water. Some friends and peers I know will literally go to the sea and wash their crystals, and that helps to recharge their energies. Some people will put them in the sunshine. What I tend to do is I have quite a lot of my crystals actually in a box. Weirdly enough, in the box I have my diary in, so I have a paper diary, and I put my diary there, and I've got all my crystals around it. but I've got them right next to open windows. So what I tend to do, and I'm sure someone will be able to tell me whether this actually works or not, I'm hoping that the moonlight recharges them through the glass, because I'm thinking if I just leave the window open, as in through the glass, the shutters open, then it can recharge through like that. Because I'm not very good at remembering to actually like lay them all out. And then I know what I'd do, I'd forget, and then I'd go back a few days later and they'd be covered in mud, and they'd be like the grass would be growing around them or something. But yeah, that a lot of people love doing that at the full moon. But it's a really good time, the full moon, to think about what you want to let go of in your life, and particularly maybe any fears or worries you've been having. So if there's anything even business related, if there's anything where you're thinking, I've really been holding on to that old fear or that old part of me, or that part of me I know is not true but it's a limiting belief, today or anytime there's a full moon, that's a great time to just go, right, I'm going to release that now, I'm going to let go of that, I'm going to come back to who I truly am at a soul level.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I mean, the opening the window might sound like a good idea, but when you get a couple of bats flying around your bedroom at
I
night, you
know.
you might want to rethink that one.
Exactly. Or you hear the wolves howling at midnight. You're terrified they're going to come in through the window. I know. Exactly. This is why, everyone, I am the black sheep in the family, because I am the crazy one. But to reiterate again, we've got a very loving family. I'm always loved and supported, and very accepted for my slightly alternative, or I like to say it, complementary ways that I have. So
Absolutely, and it took a bit
yeah.
of getting used to
Yeah.
when we started having. I bought we bought our first house, and Danielle used to stay. She used to randomly just go and find like a meter square of space on the floor and start doing yoga. Didn't matter like who was walking past or whatever. She just said like, "Can I use this space in the hallway or something?" And we were like, "Sure." But now it's
So
just like
true.
part and parcel, isn't it?
It's part and parcel. I love how you always have a selection of herbal teas in for me. Like you say, you've got the ultra processed food, ultra unprocessed food. What are
Yeah,
we
so
saying
it's
here? Ultra
it so ultra it's non-ultra processed.
non ultra
Yeah,
processed
so
food.
processed food is any food that's had a process. So we all eat processed foods. You can't really avoid that.
Yeah,
But ultra
exactly.
processed is when it's got the, like multiple ingredients and often like added chemicals and things like that.
Absolutely. And I love it. If you ever babysit my kids, you literally will text me saying they've been very nourished and they've had a lot of fruit, so no need to worry.
Yeah. Well, we do. We give them the ice cream and everything, and
Yeah.
then I try and give them like this sourdough bread to like counteract it.
Exactly, or a few strawberries on the side.
Yeah, but your children are really well trained because they know they can help themselves to fruit here, and they do.
Yeah.
And they enjoy that. And if they're hungry, they'll just go and grab a banana or something. So it's really good habits as well. That
No,
you
they do have good habits, but also they equally enjoy getting, fries and ice cream. And I'm always completely fine about that too. As you know, even though all I know about health and nutrition and wellness, I've always been sort of wanting to teach my children good habits, but also let them know that balance is so important. Like, it's absolutely fine to have a massive pizza, and it's completely fine to have, a glass of orange squash with it or whatever. But maybe then for dessert, like you say, we're going to be having some strawberries or a banana, so it's just actually about balance. And I think that's the way I try and live my life generally. Even though I say, I don't have alcohol, I don't have coffee or anything like that, it doesn't mean that if I go out for a nice lunch, I'm not going to order the superfood salad, but then I'm going to have some fries and ketchup on the side. And that's
absolutely.
and that's the way I think we need to live with everything. And that's why we're so close as sisters as well, because yes, we have differences, but I think that creates balance. It's like yin and yang, isn't it?
Absolutely. And for the record, I have seen Danielle munching through brownies with loads of ice cream piled on top.
Love a chocolate brownie. I feel like if anything is like dark chocolate related, I am loving it for sure.
Absolutely. With raspberries.
With a few raspberries on the side. Definitely. Definitely. So, final question I'd love to ask you is, if you could give everyone, and this is just really from a personal point of view, your top tip for just feeling calm in your mind, feeling that sense of peace, and just feeling good, what would it be?
So I've got two, and they are fresh air.
Yeah.
Get some fresh air, even if you sit outside, even if you've got a courtyard, sit outside in the morning for a few minutes, walk down the road, anything, fresh air. And the other thing is talk.
Yes.
Talk to your friends, talk to people around you. Don't try and hold things together and be the martyr. We are human. People respect that. People want to help. You're having a bad day. People want to talk to you. They want to help you. So I think, walking and talking. Walking
Yeah.
and talking is everything.
It is. And if you can combine the two together, even better.
Yeah,
Go on a walk with
absolutely.
a friend and talk about how you feel. Getting that fresh air, getting that exercise, getting that natural sunlight into your eyes, but also just talking. And there's nothing like building. Particularly, I mean, there's a lot of females that listen on this podcast, but just building those female friendships, those female relationships, whether they be family, whether they be friends, so important. And I think we need that the more as we get older as well.
We absolutely do. I mean, when you're a youngster, you're around people all the time in school.
Mhm.
When you're older, maybe you work at home or maybe you live on your own. So you have to start creating your own community.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And either, like you say, with more formal events like you talked about, like actually going to networking events or women's groups or whatever it might be, or just having that open energy. It really resonated with me when you said that. Actually, if you want to start building network and community for promoting your business or just from a personal point of view, if you're going out with an energy that says, I'm open to talk, I'm open to make friends, I'm open to make connections, that comes to you. You don't even have to be proactive in terms of actually approaching people and talking. It's just, yeah, not having your head down, not being in a corner, not being on your phone, just a little smile to someone. And you never know what's going to happen. You never know who you're going to meet. You never know how that's going to be really beneficial for your business, maybe life changing for your business, but maybe life changing from a personal point of view as well.
Absolutely, just be present.
Yeah, just be present for sure. Anna, if you could tell everyone where they can follow you on Instagram and your website as well, of course, put that in the show notes, but if you just let everyone know, that'd be great.
Yep, so I'm Anna Reid, and I run Read the Room PR. That's Reid, Reid. So you can follow me at Read the Room PR, and my website is readtheroompr.com.
Yay. Thank you so much, Anna, for being on
Thank
the
you
Face Your
so
Against
much,
Fat
Danielle.
podcast. Take care. Lots of love.